This building, to rebuild this, was a $2.5 million effort, and that's not including everything that went into it, but just sort of the rebuild. It then has to be refurnished and all these other things. It has been a long process. The person has still not been prosecuted, but they're in maximum security, but he's not been found competent.
We were in the midst of COVID pandemic, and you got a call that your church that you're pastoring in Springfield is on fire. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so you know what's really interesting, just and you'll get this kind of I had just been saying to God, like, what's the vision for next year? Mm-hmm. Be careful what you ask.
Right.
Like, literally, I had just said the day before, and I wake up, I said, oh, well, I guess the vision is to rebuild this church. Or at the time, actually, it wasn't really sure what we were going to do. That day was just like a shocking day. And to get here and to find out that this was not the first time that this person had tried to do that, that was shock, number two. Those were difficult moments for the obvious reason, right? To know that based on the color of your skin, that someone is deciding that they are going to try to stop your voice, really. And for me as a pastor, it was more than just, coming up and seeing what was going on, but it was figuring out how now do I minister to this congregation. And, having to gather us together on Zoom that night to just be together and to just hear people process. That was one thing. And then to think about what is the sermon on Sunday morning? And also, what is the message to the world? So for me, there were a couple of things that were important, that we're going to always preach God's love. We will always preach forgiveness. And forgiveness requires people to be accountable also for their behavior. Because one thing, folks often want black folks to really quickly jump to, we're going to forgive. Forgiveness is a process as well, right? We don't teach that. That's another psychological thing, but that is a process as well. And so for me, it was a matter of juggling a lot of things during that time, being out in front of the camera all the time, and then needing to make sure that I'm taking care of this particular flock that God has blessed me with.
And you got a building now that the inside is burned, right?
Right.
And you're trying to figure out
destroyed.
How you gonna raise money?
All of that.
Who's gonna help rebuild?
All of that, and that process in and of itself, it was overwhelming in the beginning with like how people responded, and I'm so grateful for what people did in the community. And thank God we also had insurance. But this building, to rebuild this, was a $2.5 million effort, and that's not including everything that went into it, but just sort of the rebuild. It then has to be refurnished and all these other things. So we were fortunate enough to get a grant, but that required me, pounding the pavement as well. One of my church members was able to apply for the ARPA grant, but then as a pastor, once that was applied for, what grant writing is like, what accepting. There's a lot that goes into it that divinity school did not teach us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so when people look at us as pastors, they're thinking about what you do on a Sunday morning, but all the other stuff that goes behind it. So it has been a long process. The person has still not been prosecuted, but they're in maximum security, but he's not been found competent to stand trial. And I think that's important for the audience to know, because that is still in the background, right? We've had to go in and to face looking at him, to keep getting things extended and extended and extended. It has been 6 years.
My goodness.
Right? So I don't know how much you want me to go into, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I think it's important that we're here in this building. And when I talked about the celebration, yes, I expected dancing, because anybody who's gone through not only what you've gone through as a leader, but what the community has gone through, just coming out of COVID is one thing. But then coming out of COVID and trying to figure out where you're going to worship, and then have a whole building project during COVID.
Absolutely.
And so that's a whole lot on one person. And I know you had a team. I know everybody has a committee. Black folks in churches, we got a team committee, deacons or whatever we want to, however the lay leaders are named. But I think to your point, a lot of it was still on your shoulders.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it was. And I think what's interesting is I don't think people realize how much is on the leader's shoulders. I mean, I know that you know.
Yes.
But I don't think people have a clue of the late nights, the early mornings, emails where you're trying to write to people about this and do this. I mean, and life is still going on.
Oh, yeah.
As you're doing that. And we didn't stop. We actually had a couple of workshops around trauma in the Black community, and we dealt with mental health things. We had church in a gym. That wasn't the greatest thing in the world. We are very grateful for the Martin Luther King Community Presbyterian, not Community Presbyterian, the Martin Luther King Community Center allowing us to have that space. They were very generous, but that worship was a whole different experience. And and then to deal with the congregations, there's a I don't even know if I want to say malaise. Yes, we're worshiping and we're rejoicing, but you can just tell when you're also going through
Heaviness.
Right. It's yes,
Yeah.
because it's been so light since we've been back in this building. I've seen like the lightness, and on top of that, you got people dying.
Life still lives.
You have this pandemic of racism that was happening, and I was very much involved and out there and speaking and being in protest and all that. And that's why I can look back now and say, God, you show enough. And I use that because it's a Black thing to say show enough.
Especially from Mississippi
Exactly.
and Georgia. Show enough.
You show enough a good God,
yes,
right?
yes.
I know the correct thing to say, and it's how I was raised to speak correctly, but I know that if I say to you, show enough, you know that is going to a place that is really, you can't even explain it.
Right.
Because when I think about what God brought me through, let alone talk about what God brought the church through, but the rebuilding of this, and we don't owe a mortgage.
Don't get me to shame.
That is phenomenal.
Yes, Lord.
And again, Divinity School didn't teach me any of this.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for all the support from the community, other pastors. But I will tell you this, so there was support and there was a lot of just learning in the moment, because other people's lives move on as well. So while in the beginning, there was a lot of giving me, 2 cents, 5 cents, $1, right? Like in terms of the opinions.
Right.
I don't mean in terms of donations, excuse me, but I mean people had things to say, and that was overwhelming too, for everybody to flood you with an opinion all at once. But for the long haul, they're the faithful few that you're able to go through, because it's just like and you will get this, right? It's just like when you're as a pastor and you have a loved one to die. As a pastor, people are praying for you temporarily and they're holding that space for you. But a week later,
They
or
gone.
2 weeks later,
Yeah.
pastor, blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't know what they do privately. They still might be praying for you, but the needs are there and you have to keep moving.
Yeah. Wow. So what was the sermon like that Sunday after you found out all the stuff that happened? What did you say to try to encourage your people?
If I remember correctly, the sermon was joy comes in the morning, in the
Wow.
MOURNING.
That's good.
See, that's the psychology part that I needed to bring in there. I said, we're not going to be too quick to rush through. This is trauma. And so we have to mourn. And it gets back to your question earlier about funerals. We have to mourn. We have to weep. We have to wail. Isn't that what Jeremiah talked about? Like those wailing women. And then, Jesus even talked about the weeping women, right? Let us not rush through this, but let us deal with the fact that we could have been in this church. And,
Wow.
Something that I actually haven't said a lot publicly, but that person actually was scoping out this church. And I believe had been in this church before.
My goodness.
Right? And the lesson for all of us is, you don't ever know who's in your church.
Yeah. That is so true. I mean, we all soft targets, and we're almost to the end of this interview, but I have to ask this question. This was a death. The fire was a death
Absolutely.
for your congregation.
Yes.
And even though God has blessed you with a beautiful edifice, I'm sure there are folks who still remember what it used to look like.
Absolutely. And you know how we are in church anyway, with holding on to the old.
Yes.
But what we have tried to do, or at least what I have tried to do in my messaging, is to, yes, we're going to deal with the death of what we lost, and that we also know that in the process of something dying, there's a rebirth as well. And so what is God trying to work out in us now that we have gone through that dying process? And let's also be honest, some things need to die. And so we've had to do that too, to take a look at what needed to go and what do we need to bring forth in this day and time. And so I want to just say this about the COVID experience. The fact that we were worshiping online actually helped us because we didn't have a church building to go to that next Sunday. The fact that we had already been worshiping online, we didn't miss a beat. But if this had happened when it wasn't COVID, we would have felt so displaced and lost.
Wow.
So that I think, is something that needs to be said. And at the end of the day, the thing that I can lay my hat on is that all things work together for the good. Not all things are good, but all will work for the good. And that I can continue to trust God even as I go through my ugly periods of faith or whatever the issues are. I can continue to trust God through that process. And God is going to be okay with me being transparent.